Well, you can't talk about the history of Monte Sereno without talking about the Claravale Dairy, which is no longer in Monte Sereno, so we came to it. And today it's at the farmers market at West Valley College, and I have the newest owner, the second owner of the dairy, and his name is Ron Garthwaite, and thank you for hosting us.
Sure.
So let's talk about this wonderful dairy. I mean, not many cities can boast of having a dairy in its midst. So bring us back to what year did it start in Monte Sereno?
I think it was like 1927.
Something like that, and the owner was Kenneth Peake, who died at the age of 92, and most of his life was with the dairy.
Since when he was 18.
So where was it in Monte Sereno?
It's on Bicknell Road.
It was on Bicknell.
Yeah.
How many acres?
Started out at around 12 or so.
And how many cows?
It was always around 50 when it was a going concern, when it was at its height.
Now you worked at the dairy from what age?
Oh, well, I was like 40.
Okay, so that was your
42.
second career, I guess, huh?
That's right.
I mean, what did the neighbors think of having 50 cows in their neighborhood?
A lot of the neighbors really liked it.
Made them feel like they were out in the boonies, I guess, huh?
Yeah, it was something unique, something special.
And
so not a lot of them actually bought the milk, but they liked the presence of the dairy.
now, tell us a little bit about Ken. He obviously loved the dairy. It was with him till almost the very end of his life. He ran it, didn't he? He owned it and ran it.
That's right, yeah. He owned it. He started it when he was 18 with one cow, from what I hear.
And what kind of cows were they?
He's had Guernseys, which at the time, back in the 20s, was the cow to have.
For
Guernseys,
milking?
Yeah, just for the quality of the milk.
Okay.
And so it had a really high butter fat, a nice color to it, a nice cream-colored cream, and yeah, really tasty. So that's what he had. He had Guernseys.
And what time would you get up in the morning to go milk a cow and get the day going?
Well, I can't remember what the schedule was back then. It was a lot fewer cows when I was involved with it. But now we start the day at 2:30 in the morning.
2:30 in the morning. That's the time I woke up to do a radio show. But that's the time you wake up to milk those cows, huh?
Yeah, because we milk them twice a day, and it takes about 10 hours. So there's only like 4 hours during the day when we're not milking something.
It takes 10 hours to milk how many cows?
About 40 cows, and maybe we have goats now, so maybe 150 goats.
And how many people are needed to do that?
One person.
What? Really? So you just go from cow to cow, and the cows are fine with it?
They're just fine with it, yes.
Now, Kenneth lived, what kind of a house was there at the dairy?
Well, it was pretty small. There was, I think, 2 bedrooms and a living room and a kitchen.
It's all gone now, I take it.
It's all gone,
What
yeah.
is it now?
It's a single dwelling, yeah.
On how many acres?
Well, I think that, it was divided up. It was originally around 12 acres, and it was divided up into maybe 3 or 4 lots.
All right,
So probably
okay.
a couple acres.
Okay. Did he have a family?
He had a daughter. I think it was his stepdaughter, if I remember correctly.
She didn't want anything to do with the
Nothing to
farm
do. No, she didn't
afterwards?
like it.
No, she didn't like it.
No.
She didn't want to get out there. Now, he did it all though, right? From what I read, he would get up early in the morning, milk the cows, pour it into the bottles. I don't know, I'm going to ask you about the process. Raw milk, right? Mm-hmm. And back then, I guess all the dairies were raw.
Right.
But you're still raw.
Right.
And why did you keep the raw milk?
It's just better.
Well, you're gonna give me a taste pretty soon, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
But then I heard and read that he would put the bottles in his '67 pickup, and he would personally deliver the milk to customers.
That's right.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And did he name the cows?
Yeah, he had names for them
Did
all.
he have a Bessie?
No.
No. What did he name the cows?
There was a lot of rows this, rows that.
And what was the significance
I
of
don't
that?
know.
You don't know?
There was
Must
some
have been,
significance,
yeah,
but I don't know
obviously.
what it was.
Oh.
But yeah, he had them all named.
Now this is going to show my stupidity. Do all milking cows have to be females? Yes, obviously.
Obviously.
That does show my stupidity.
Yeah, we get that question more than you would imagine.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. So we won't have to edit that out of this interview.
No, people are going to want to know.
So, do you know, were most of the customers Monte Sereno residents?
Well, yeah, he had, again, when it was at its peak, It was it seems unusual now that one person would do all of that, but back then it was common.
This is love is passion.
Yeah. Back then, all dairies were that way. They were small, they were home delivery. So back then, somebody would milk it, and then bottle it and then go deliver it all door to door. And so it was, it wasn't far. It was like a neighborhood route.
Oh, I love that.
So it would have all been Monte Sereno.
Yeah, and he'd knock on the door, not like Berkeley Farms where they would just leave it on your porch. I bet he knocked on the door.
Don't know.
Now, what did you do there?
I milked the cows and bottled it. And at the point when I took it over, there was somebody who was still doing a small route. But most of it, when I took it over, most of it was people coming up to the dairy and buying it out of the dairy.
Yeah.
So that's what we did.
Do you remember what the price of milk was back then?
I don't.
Yeah, I wonder. Probably nickels, I don't know.
Yeah.
Compared to now. And then he worked till what, the age of 90 or so? Was he working on the farm?
Yeah. I think he was 92 when he stopped.
When he passed,
when I bought it from him, I think he was 92.
Now, I read that the city tried to gather the money together to buy it and just couldn't come up with the price.
Yeah, from what I remember, it wasn't the city, it was a group of private individuals, neighbors.
Can I ask you what you paid for the dairy?
I paid $25,000.
Are you kidding me?
And that was overpriced.
Was it?
Yes, it was.
Really? Now, what do you think you could get for it these days?
A lot more.
Yeah, $25,000.
But at the time, it was 10 cows. It was a bunch of equipment that we really had to change out.
Yeah.
And the cows, we ended up changing them out too. So didn't really buy anything.
And you just bought the farm. You did not buy the land.
Yeah, not the land.
Because the land would have been
Right.
millions. Yes. Yeah. Yes. And then you packed up, and where'd you move to?
We moved to Santa Cruz County for a while, tried to get the dairy built there and a piece of property that we owned. And then after a few years, we moved out to San Benito County, which is where it is now.
So where did the name Claravale Dairy come from?
He said it's like an abbreviation of Santa Clara Valley. The story I heard was that he bought a cow, started the dairy, one cow, and the cow died. And then he had to go into debt to get a second cow. And he said that the guy who lent him the money to get the second cow was the one who made him call it Claravale.
Claravale. I think that makes sense. What's Santa
So
Clara
that's the
Valley?
story I heard.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's true or not.
Well, we're going to say it's true, because who's
Okay.
going to fight us? Tell us what kind of a man Kenneth was.
Well, he was quiet, very, very quiet,
Yeah.
and very opinionated on how dairying should be.
I bet. You followed the rules. Did you keep his mantra going?
Yeah, he knew. That's why I was there, because he knew what he was doing, obviously.
How did he learn all of that?
Well, again, back when he started, it was the most common of things. It's like everybody knew dairying back then. Everybody knew cows. Everybody knew milk. Everybody knew how it was done. It wasn't any big deal. So,
I think it was to the customers, but yeah. Yeah. Was he a good boss to work for?
yeah, he was.
Yeah, nice guy.
Yeah, like I say, really quiet.
Yeah.
Pretty hands off.
And you were his only employee.
No, we had milkers as well.
I thought you
Yeah.
said you did the milking.
Well, I started as a volunteer just to see how things went.
Uh-huh.
I did that for maybe a year, and then I became the milker for about a year. And then actually I stopped being the milker when I bought the dairy, and then we hired other people to milk.
Do they have a landmark on Big
I've
Now?
heard there is.
I hope there is. We should drive
I've heard
by
there's a
and
plaque
see.
or something.
That
I
there
haven't
should
seen
be,
it.
because not many cities have a dairy.
Yeah.
And it's such a rich story for this valley, because that's what this valley was all about.
That's not quite right. I mean, it used to be back when he was doing it.
But that's the history, yes.
Every neighborhood had a dairy, and the only reason why Claravale survived when all the other hundreds or thousands of neighborhood dairies were going out of business is because he had a lot of inheritances, and he had money from selling off property, so he didn't really have to make a profit. So he was running the dairy for a long time, just kind of as a hobby, not making money at it, actually spending money on it. So that's why his dairy survived when all the other small dairies were becoming, factory dairies.
And I assume it's a 7-day-a-week job.
Yeah, 7 days a week, absolutely.
Do you deliver 7 days too?
I'm not sure.
Wow. And how have things changed for you now? I mean, more modern equipment, of course, and different cows, I think. Don't you have Jersey cows?
Yeah, we switched to Jerseys. He was actually in the process of switching to Jerseys because Guernseys became hard to find.
Really?
Yeah, Guernseys used to be the cow to have if you were selling milk directly to customers because, of its quality and its flavor. But they were sort of going out of favor and Jerseys were coming in more. The breeding on Guernseys kind of dropped and the breeding on Jerseys was really kept up. So the Jerseys actually kind of surpassed Guernseys.
And you kept it raw.
Right.
You did not go to the pasteurized route. And why is that?
Well, it's just a much better milk, but also it's a really nice niche market because nobody else was doing it.
Yes. Well, and you have had customers nonstop since I've been here. So
yeah.
I have never tasted raw milk. Let's have a taste.
All right.
Okay, bring me on over. I've never had raw milk. This is a first for me. Am I going to get a milk mustache? I've always wanted one because it's thick and creamy, right?
It is.
I mean, you describe to me what I'm going to drink now.
Well, it's Jersey milk, and so it's...
Ooh, it's beautiful.
It's the oldest dairy breed. It's been bred for hundreds of years to have really high quality milk. So a lot more cream, a lot more protein, a lot more everything.
It's beautiful. I can't wait to taste it, but tell me the process from back in the day, because it's probably a little different now, how you got from the cow to this.
There would be a vacuum machine, a claw they would call it. You hook onto the teats, sucks out the milk. In Kenneth's time, it would go into a milk can.
So you mean Ken didn't have to use his hands?
No, it wasn't by hand.
Oh, really? Way back when, 1927?
Yeah, right.
Wow.
No, they started machine milking in the 1890s.
All right, okay. So you got the machine going.
Right, and it pulls the milk out of the cow, puts it into a milk can. Then we would carry the milk can up these stairs so we get some height, pour the milk into this reservoir, a big tank, and then it would flow down inside the building, down over some cooling coils to cool it down real fast.
Wow.
The faster you cool it down, the longer it's going to last. And then it would go into a hand-operated bottling machine that would fill the bottles by hand. You have to pull the lever each bottle. And then it would go into a small cooler.
So how many bottles are we talking about per cow, do you think, per milking?
Well, per milking, if a cow's going to give 3 or 4 gallons, then there's 4 bottles in a gallon.
Okay,
so.
Okay. Poor little Rose, I don't know. And then, what is the process with these bottles? Because I noticed while you were selling today, people were bringing back their own bottles, so there's obviously a deposit or something. How do you get the bottle to get clean and all that process once they return it?
Yeah, it was the same way when Ken was running the dairy. We had returnable bottles, and they're actually hand washed, each one.
Really?
By hand. There's brushes, which is, again, this was standard back in the time, but there's this motor with 3 brushes on it that sticks out of the wall with some soapy water, and you just put it on the brushes, clean it off, put it in some rinse. And that's
Really?
it, every one by hand.
That surprises me. I thought for sure there was some sort of mechanical process, a sterilizer, but...
Yeah, well, in bigger dairies later on, there was big machines that would do that, clean it basically chemically.
And the
but
difference
not on his side of an operation.
Between raw and pasteurized is what?
It's not.
It's a big difference.
Well, yeah, pasteurization is just cooking it.
Okay.
It's like canning milk. It's like canned tomatoes. Pasteurized milk is just canned milk. You cook it, seal it so it lasts longer. It's a way to preserve it.
And raw does not cause any health problems?
No, in fact, just the opposite. A lot of people who can't drink pasteurized milk, cooked milk, processed milk can drink this just fine.
So shall I taste it now? Shall we do it? Am I going to get a milk mustache maybe? Let's see. Oh my goodness, there is a distinct difference between just going to buy the regular carton of milk and this. It is so creamy. I mean, that's the word how you would describe it.
Right.
Oh, it's delicious. I did want to talk about Mr. Peake and the kids, and he did field trips. Tell me about those, because you had to be there on
Yeah,
scene.
right, quite often. Yeah, groups of kids would come and watch the cows being milked.
And would they get? And I guess would they get to do it?
No.
So there was no way you could milk them the old-fashioned way, or could you?
By hand?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's easy to do, but kids aren't going to be doing that.
No, and I guess the cows don't really like that, or do they?
The cows are really, routine oriented, and they really know people, and so yeah, they don't like strangers.
Yeah.
And they don't like something outside of the routine.
So, Mr. Peake, I mean, how long would a cow last?
It's hard to say. They last as long as they're producing well.
I mean, we're talking years. I
Yeah,
would hope.
yeah. I'm guessing maybe 15 years.
I mean, they had to be his babies.
Yeah.
You
yeah.
must have treated them wonderfully,
Right. Yeah.
like people. They were people to him.
Yeah.
What was it like bargaining to buy this place from Mr. Peake? He must have been happy that you, who worked there for all those years, wanted it.
There wasn't a lot of bargaining. It was just, here's the price, okay. It was a fine
Did
price.
he know you were going to move out of Monte Sereno?
Well, he knew that people were trying to get it to stay. But, it wouldn't have been good for the dairy to stay because our ability to actually be a business would have been really curtailed in the operating on half an acre, which is what it was down to when I bought it.
Yeah.
Because he was selling off portions. So it was
Yeah.
basically literally the entire dairy on half an acre, surrounded by mansions. And so it wouldn't have been a viable business at that point.
You're
It would have
right.
been like a Disneyland kind of thing, or it would have been a pretend dairy, and that wouldn't have been good for it. So it's kind of good that they failed, because it allowed us to grow.
It reminds me of when you're driving down some gorgeous street and you see all the big mansions, and then there's that one little house, and they obviously refuse to sell to anybody, and they're just standing there, and that would have been Claravale.
Yeah.
That would have been sad, you're right.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't have been good. It would have been just a place where people came to see how farming wasn't done. And
Yeah.
it wouldn't have grown, it wouldn't be the business it is today.
Well, Claravale is not in Monte Sereno anymore. We've just had the history lesson from you today, Ron, and you have made it a thriving business. If Mr. Peake were to come back and visit you, what would he have to say of your running your dairy now?
Yeah, he'd have a lot to say
Yeah.
about it. But,
Good or bad?
well, things change. So
Yes, they do.
you have to make business decisions.
Yeah, but you would show them your books. They say, okay, I understand. So, Ron, tell us how the dairy business has changed from Mr. Peake to you.
When Mr. Peake was doing it, it was really common to have small neighborhood raw milk dairies just like he had. It was the most common thing. The way we've changed, the way we've had to change since I bought the dairy is we've moved into stores. So most of our business is now in stores. It's not at all home deliveries. So we're in stores throughout California, and then we also do a lot of farmers markets, which is a new thing.
So, Monte Sereno residents can go buy your milk where?
They can buy it at the West Valley Farmers Market.
And any of the grocery stores in town?
There's not a lot of grocery stores local. There's a lot throughout the Bay Area, but not really local to Monte Sereno.
Well, farmers market's a quick ride. But how the operations itself have changed?
We now have a pipeline system instead of milking it into milk cans. That's a minor difference. So the actual getting the milk out of the cow and putting it in a bottle is actually really, really similar. It's just how we have to market it that's changed.
Any of your cows named Rose?
No.
Do you name your cows too?
Occasionally. They have to be some different kind of cow. They have to stand out to get a name, but some of them get names.
And do you ever, in the process of running the dairy, think back to Mr. Peake and say, thank you for showing me the way?
Absolutely.
I mean, tell us, what did he give to you? What did he instill in you that you learned from him?
I think the main thing that I learned from him was that it was possible.
Especially in this day and age, to know it's still possible. It's got to be a great feeling.
Right. When I first went up there, it was like nobody really thought that you could still do dairying the way you did back in the 20s and 30s. But you can. The regulations haven't changed.
Is it the same logo? I know the address has changed, of
No,
course.
we actually came up with that logo. The logo comes from, there's been a history in the milk bottles where there used to be those like cardboard pogs that you put in there.
Right.
They changed the regulations where you had to have the lip covered. And so the way that dairymen handled that right away was just to put a piece of paper over the top with a rubber band. So you'd have the same cardboard, you put a piece of paper with a rubber band. So this was the logo on that paper that went over the top.
Oh, that's great.
So that wasn't his logo.
Great. Got that? Taking this home, like I said, this is my baby. Thank you, Mr. Peake, for all you did for Monte Sereno.